Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the Daily Huddle with me, Life Coach Franzani. Today we're continuing our conversation on comparison and its effects by talking about how we compare others to each other. I'm not going to lie. I have a hard time ever believing that there are advantages to comparing others to each other. It sounds like judgment, and I really can't get around that, but judgment and comparison are not the same, and I'm also not a fan of extremes. It can't always be bad to compare others to each other, right? So let's see. Okay. What are the advantages of comparing? Actually, let's start with the disadvantages since I feel more comfortable there. So, disadvantages of comparing people to each other. And when I think about this, I think of siblings to each other. God, I hate being compared to my very different sister. Exes or fathers or husbands to each other. In-laws. And to me, that all leads to judgment and bringing others down. When you compare one person to another person, you run the risk of judging them, of imposing your ideals, your beliefs on them and tearing them down in the process. As a woman, minority, first generation daughter of an immigrant in America, I'm leery and I'm weary from this. From the receiving end, it feels personal and it feels wrong. So that is a huge disadvantage to comparing others to each other. Another disadvantage is dissatisfaction. So when you compare others to point out the lack, you end up feeling disappointed and dissatisfied yourself in that person. Okay, so the advantages of comparing others to each other. Now that I've gotten the obvious negatives out of the way, which I feel like reign supreme, that people do the most, out of the way, there's light and dark in everything, right? So let's end with the light. The advantages of comparing others to each other. First, you can learn to respect differences. So we usually compare what feels like obvious similarities, things that are similar. So like siblings, they have the same parents, blood, grew up in the same house oftentimes. There are so many things that are alike and the same. But when you realize, oh my goodness, this kid is so different from this other kid, you can learn to appreciate the differences and relate better. And this is true for every time you realize there's a difference in something. In employees, when you're hiring, or when you're working with different people, friends, bosses, etc. You can really learn to respect differences when you compare similarities and differences. So a second advantage to comparing other people to each other is to build up. So if you want to compare me to Oprah or Rihanna or Beyonce, I'm here for it. I want to hear it all day. So when you compare someone else to as a way to highlight the positive, it can be a way to point out something good in someone else, and it's so special, especially when the other person doesn't see that in themselves. So finally, and I can't believe that after having such strong opinions about the disadvantages of comparing people to each other, that I actually have one more advantage than disadvantage. But the final one is seeing the potential. So when someone is so different from everything you know, and I'm thinking like a kid or a spouse or just someone you feel like, I don't understand you. And then it makes you worry or concern. And then you meet someone who is similar, or you hear about someone who is similar, or you listen to an interview or a podcast and you hear someone who functions like the person you care about but don't understand. It can be very affirming for you. And if it's someone who's younger and can use mentorship, it's so affirming for them. So the final advantage that I can see in comparing others to each other is seeing the potential. So that's all I have for you today on the effects of comparing people to each other. Tomorrow we will finish up our conversation with the advantages and disadvantages of comparing our experiences. So past, present, future. Well, future aren't experiences, but past, present. And our ideals. So thank you so much for watching the Daily Huddle with me, Life Coach Franzani. Every week I pick a theme and every day we huddle around a topic and how it affects our motivation, our ability to live by our values, and be the master of our own destiny. I'll see you here tomorrow. Give yourself an amazing day.